My name is Prosper. Uh, I'm a Nigerian. I live in Nigeria. So, a brief introduction about myself. I'm a Google developer expert. What that means is Google recognizes you as an expert in your field. I'm not a Googler, so just point of correction. But Google recognizes you as an expert in different areas: web technology, IoT, Firebase, mobile development, and so many others. And those are my social media handles. I'm very active on GitHub, it's Unicode developer, and very, very active on Twitter. I tweet on a per second billing. So if you check my Twitter handle right now, you probably see a tweet going on right now as I'm speaking. Then I write a lot on Medium. My handle on Medium is Unicode developer too. Um, then also I like to call myself a community evangelist. What that simply means is, like I said, I'm a Nigerian. I live in Lagos, Nigeria. Nigeria is like the most populous country in Africa, and I work for a company here in the US called Otzero. But I'm privileged enough to be able to work remotely. So I work from Lagos. I come here sometimes. I go back, yeah, just back and forth. But then back in Nigeria, I organize what we call Follow Up Africa, and Follow Up Africa is a community of developers that has extended from Nigeria to Kenya to Uganda. We're in those three countries right now, and we are going to Ghana in about 9 days time, no, 15 days time, November 11. Um, and our plan is to get to about at least 10 African countries within the next 1 year. And then I run Laravel Nigeria. I mean, Laravel is a very popular PHP framework, and Angular Nigeria. Yes, I'm part of the organizers of Angular Nigeria. Then the last one is a new initiative. I've been speaking with Sean Larkin a lot, the Webpack guy. Don't know, I'm sure a lot of people know Sean. And we've been thinking about organizing what we call Webpack Africa to bring a lot more people to contribute to open source from that region and do a lot of things on Webpack. Um, yeah, so that's it about me. So let's talk about rich media actually. Right now, we're going to talk about the user experiences across the world with media on the web. For people like me, the reason why I'm very passionate about this talk is when you're building for the web, it's very easy for you to say you're building for a global market. A lot of people say that. Even when you're pitching, you maybe come to Google Launchpad space or you're at startup, whatever, and you're talking about your app, and you're like, oh, how many users do you have on your app? How many? Let's look at the demographics. And like, yeah, people from all over the world are using the app. Like people from China, people from Lagos, Nigeria, people from India, people from exactly. That's what I want to talk about, because it's very easy for you to say you have a lot of users coming from that region, but the truth is, are people just signing up on your platform for the first time and dropping off, or are they consistently using your platform? And the truth about people from that region is this. I'll give you an example. This is someone complaining about, having to go through Snap videos and just getting frustrated because of the network. And I'll give another example, because here in the years, I mean, it's very easy for me to use like get 4G LT and all of that. But when I go back to my country, the highest I get on my phone is 3G, and then most times I have to deal with slow 3G, right? And this is my experience. Every time I'm trying to load maybe Instagram or Snapchat or any media heavy app, this is my daily experience because of the kind of network I have. And that's not all. I also experienced this. I am in the middle of watching Man's Not Hot video. Very, very lovely, funny video, making my day already. And I get to half of the video and then the network just disappears. Something just goes wrong. I know why. Because I pay a lot of money for data, and the data is not even that good. So I have to switch between like four internet providers to make sure I can work or I can watch. And because I work for a company here, there is no excuse. I mean, I have to still perform. The My performance metrics will not be different because I live in Lagos, right? So if I am using a rich media app, I have to, make sure I have like the best internet. I have to make sure like I pay for a lot of data so that I can, watch these things and have access to the same things I have access to whenever I travel here. And I just want to talk about some of the techniques that you can use when you're building your app to make sure your app is faster and your app is smarter, so that people from all these other regions that do not really have access to, the quality of the internet you have here can also have access to your app. All right. So this is a statistic. Um, After 2 seconds of buffering, users start dropping off at around 6% per second. So somebody, you're trying to watch a YouTube video. Well, let me not use YouTube. You're trying to watch a video online, and the moment you start watching the video, it start buffering. And every time you try to watch that video, you have the same experience. So most times you just get frustrated, and you drop off. You look for an alternative. And the good thing about the web, especially as developers or as technical people, you know that there is an alternative for everything, right? Um, you, it was here with the Internet Explorer, right? I mean, that was a time Internet Explorer was our almost like our main option. Like everybody uses Internet Explorer, but it got to a time where a lot of people, everybody's using Google Chrome. But then if you are on your mobile device, you discover that a lot of people use UC browser, right? A lot of people use Opera Mini. How many of you still use Opera Mini here? My guy, good. Yeah, I use Opera Mini a lot. And back in Nigeria, you have like, if you have a platform, a website, you probably 80% of your users use Opera Mini. So you cannot ignore Opera Mini, right? But then there are always alternatives for everything. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're building an app and you don't really care about some of these things, people bounce off your app and go to the next app. And the same way you have new JavaScript frameworks coming up every now and then, you have new alternatives for your app coming up every now and then. So somebody is pitching the exact same app you have to somebody, but let's make it better. Let's make it better. I could have talked about this, but then this is very clear. You have images, audio, and video on the web now. If you are trying to understand Webpack, how many of you understand the internals of Webpack? Like, if you were called to explain Webpack to a dummy or to a 5-year-old, how many of you can do that effectively? Yeah, Webpack is a beast, right? So if you're trying to learn the internals of Webpack to understand how it fully works, what would you prefer? Would you prefer somebody give you a textbook and say, look, this is the Bible of Webpack. If you open it from cover to cover, you move from novice to magician in Webpack? Or will you prefer somebody to bring a a diagram of Webpack and tell you, look, these are the 7 stages of how the compiler works, and this is how it works in comparison with the abstract syntax tree, and you have the diagrams and you have arrows left and right and you have images. Which one would you prefer? You would prefer the diagrammatic representation, right? Comes with videos and images. Actually, just images, no video. Say just images, but no text. No text. Which would you prefer? You prefer that, right? There is someone I follow very well on Twitter. Her name is Kosamari. She works for Google, and she does this stuff where she draws diagrams of trying to explain how the web works, the different parts, the performance and everything. And the reason why I follow her is because of that, because I would rather follow her, go through her tweets and understand how the web works, than go buy a book on Amazon and start reading text to text. Do you get what I'm saying? So most times you have a higher percentage of the web with images, audio, and video. So I mean, how many people still read text? People just skim over it. You still read text. Let's talk about the anatomy of your rich media experience. Well, I mean, what will you look for when? What are the factors you look at when you are building something like this? And very simple: 1, fast playback; 2, great user experience; 3, delivery of high quality media assets; and 4, accessibility. I put accessibility at the last because that's like very, very important. Accessibility anywhere, everywhere. So let's start with a case study. I'm not going to talk much about these. That's why I put the URL there so you can check it out. For the first example, iHeartRadio is a streaming service where you can have access to a lot of songs and all of the stuff you see on the screen. The next is a progressive web app, and it makes use of what you call the media session API, which I'll just talk about later. Then another experience is GeoCinema. GeoCinema is one of the very popular apps in India. And in India, you have a lot of people. You have a lot of people connected to the internet. You have a lot of people with low quality internet and people that pay very expensive amounts for data. So, but with this, they built this app, and this is a this is a very progressive web app. You can add it to your home screen. It offers fast playback. You can watch some of the videos offline and all of those good stuff. So you can check it out. You can check it out. Um, and it provides offline capability. So even when for some reasons your network is gone, you can still play your videos. So you can cache your videos to work offline. This is really not like a real world example. This is just a demo um, of how you have images and text on an app, and then if you go offline, all of these things are cached offline. So when the user is offline, you can still have access to these images and this text. So you can still have access to the image like is online. So this is just a demo. It's really not like a real world example. I just included it there so that you can have more examples. All right. So how do you actually, build something like this? So let's start with this. Recommended video players. You're trying to build a media app. You're trying to build a very nice, rich media experience. How do you go about it? I'm sure, we're all developers, so you understand how the HTML5 elements work. You understand that you have a video element tag, right? But then the video element tag is just a video tag. If you want to build anything on top of it, you have to, you know, write a lot of JavaScript code, build the custom functionality for all of these things you see on the screen. But we already have open source projects that you can take advantage of. And this is example. The first example is the Google Shaka player. Very popular. If you use Instagram, which I think a lot of us are on Instagram, Instagram uses Google Shaka player. And then the good thing about Instagram is that Instagram has a progressive web app now. So even if you don't have Instagram installed on your phone, you can go to the progressive web app version of Instagram, which is just the same way you have Twitter Lite, which is the progressive web app version of Twitter. Instead of you having to install the app, you can just go to the URL and then you use it with less data and all of that. Google Shaka Player is a very good video player that supports the following. It's open source, it's free. It's Google. They support custom subtitle rendering and they support adaptive bitrate streaming, which I'm going to talk about very soon, and the ability for you to render all sorts of playlists. Then the second is the Cloudinary video player. Cloudinary video player 2 is open source. You can find the demo. The link there is the demo to the code pen, where you have like all the different things you need to consider, like analytics, monetization, adaptive bitrate streaming, and all of those good things you consider when you're building a video app or something like that. So these are two players that you should check out that I highly recommend. Then let's start with fast playback. One of the techniques for you to solve fast playback is with adaptive bitrate streaming. And what is adaptive bitrate streaming? It's very simple. You have multiple video streams with different resolutions, qualities, and bitrate. But then, if you want to actually provide that kind of experience, like you want to handle adaptive bitrate streaming, is a lot of work. It's tedious. You're going to write a lot of code. But then you already have, some tools out there that already support it out of the box. Now, the previous slide I showed, the two video players there, the Cloudinary video player and the Google Shaka player already supports adaptive bitrate streaming out of the box. So you don't have to manually take care of that. You can just take advantage of what's available for you, and then you already have that in your app. All right. So these are just some hacks. I won't call them hack. It's actually a technique that you can use. So if you use the video elements, you can use what you call the preload attribute. And what that does for you is if you provide the preload attribute with a value of auto, it indicates that the browser may cache enough data that complete playback is possible without requiring a stop for further buffering. So once you use that preload attribute, now I didn't put so much information here, but then it's available on developers.google.com. You can just search for preload attribute and you see more information about how you can take advantage of that to ensure a fast playback for your video experience, for your video app that you're working on building. So it depends on the internet connectivity too. Like if you use this preload attribute, and I mean, somebody is using if somebody is using a very fast internet by default, I mean, it's be faster. But then if you're taking care of people that are using very, low quality internet, but then it ensures a faster playback for those kind of people. Because instead of the video to buffer, which we do by default, if you already do something like this, it forces the browser to pre-cache some of the video elements. And then when the user plays the video, it automatically starts playing instead of it buffering. So it's ensuring a faster playback for the user. Another technique is what you call the link preload. I mean, all these things, some of these things are available online, but the truth is that a lot of people don't know about them or they don't use them yet, maybe because they're not aware, because these are just the browser APIs you're taking advantage of. So link preload is a declarative fetch that allows you to force the browser to make a request for a resource without blocking the unload event. So this almost works like the previous one I mentioned, but then this without, like I said there, it allows you to force the browser to make a request without blocking the unload event. So even before the unload, it's already requesting for that resource. And I have an example here. So look at that code. You have the link tag rel is equals to preload. Then you have href, which is the video itself that you're trying to load, and then you have your JavaScript. But then a caveat about this technique is not recommended for large videos. So sorry about that. You can mostly use them for small videos. So say you're building like a micro blogging platform, the same way you have Twitter. Twitter will not allow you to upload a very heavy video, right? When you upload a video on Twitter, it can just accommodate up to how many seconds? I can't remember, but you have something like that. But then when you go to Twitter and you try to load your video, you discover that is actually the experience is actually better than some of these other apps out there. So this is recommended for just small videos. So some of the things you need to consider before you use some of the techniques that I already mentioned before is one, you can check the user's battery level, which is funny, but then this makes sense, right? If you this is a browser API. You have if get battery navigator. So if you go to if you open your Chrome DevTools now, you can actually see it is very available. Navigator.get battery. You check the batteries. You check the user's battery level. You can even also check if the user is even charging his or her phone at that point. So based on the battery level of the user, because then you're trying to pre-cache the video, you're trying to cache the video so that the user can have a fast playback, right? So you have to check the user's battery level. Is it, high enough for you to be able to go through that process, which we always consume battery? Do you want to do that, or do you want to actually warn the user and say, oh, by the ways, we want to ensure that you have a better experience, right? But your battery is too low for us to give you this kind of experience, then the user knows what to do. Two, you can check the network type. Now, I don't really recommend this, but then if you use the navigator.connection.type, you have different values. You have the cellular, you have Wi-Fi. I think you have one other one, I can't remember right now. But then the reason why I don't really recommend this is because when you're looking at the difference between cellular and Wi-Fi, by default, you assume that your Wi-Fi is very fast, right? But then if you have so many people on the Wi-Fi, then your Wi-Fi might be slow, right? And someone that is using cellular will actually have a faster connection at that point. So if you are using this to check, this is really not reliable, but I just put it there as an example of something that you might find useful. All right, another one, I will move fast now so I don't take much time. Another one is the space on the user's device. So you can take advantage of the browser API. Like I said, you can check the storage that the user has. Because if you are pre-caching a video, if you're catching a video, you are going to be storing it somewhere. It's not going to hang in the cloud. It's not going to hang somewhere in the atmosphere. It will be on the user's device, right? But then you can check the storage the user has. And if the user has very small storage, you can actually warn the user and say, oh, by the ways, like I said, if you want a better experience, you need to have this amount of storage on your device. And this is very helpful because for someone like me, I'd rather buy a phone that will just serve me with small storage space because I really don't. Maybe I don't have enough money to buy one with a big storage space. So, and there are so many things I'm storing, right? So if you're trying to store something on my device without warning me, at the end of the day, if I discover that your app is using more storage space, I will just delete your app, which people do. I mean, people install battery saver apps. People install cleaning apps to get rid of the app that is taking much space. So I better tell you ahead of time that, hey, I'm going to be taking advantage of your storage. Uh, yeah. So for a great user experience, one, let's talk about the screen orientation API, which is very simple. With the screen orientation API, this is what happens. So, yeah, the user is on your app like this on the portrait mode, right? And then he has to watch on landscape, which is how a lot of people watch their videos, right? But you can provide a better experience for the user by automatically making sure the user does not have to, you know, move to click anything to provide that kind of experience. So when the user is on portrait mode, it's okay. But then when immediately the user switches the screen to landscape, you can request full screen video. So you just have a method that just makes the video full screen without the user having to do anything, which is just very fantastic. So the user is having a better movie experience on landscape mode than on portrait. This is very simple. Imagine you're watching a video or you're checking something out, and then you have to quickly do something by do maybe search Google for something, or you have to quickly reply an email. Then you switch from the browser tab you are to just quickly do that, and you're watching a video. Then the video still continues playing in the background. That's crazy, right? Most times you would not have to go back to pause the video, then come back to what you're doing, then go back and play it, then come back. Do you get what I'm saying? But then what if you are watching a video and then when you switch, you don't actually have to pause it first. It just automatically understands that, okay, this is hidden now because you are trying to do something else. Then it pauses automatically, right? And then when you come back, it continues playing. So you have the browser API that you can actually take advantage of and make that happen. Another one is the intersection observer API. This is, say maybe you have a page, then you have the video on top, and you have to scroll down and scroll up. The video is on top, and then when you scroll down, you need to provide a way for the user to still be able to control the video that is on top, right? So with the intersection observer API, when you scroll down, you can actually make available a button where the user can mute the video, whatever is playing, from the position where the user is, rather than having to go back up, rather than the user having to go back up to actually, maybe pause the video so that there is no sound or anything. But with the intersection observer API, when the user scrolls down, you can just automatically enable that button, and the user can, mute the video or whatever. So you're just making it better for the user. You're providing a better user experience. So you're saving the user clicks. So if instead of the user having to go back up and down, the user can be reading a text below the scroll to find the controls. So, I mean, if you're using a material design guide, on Gmail, you already have the button by the side. So if you scroll down, you can easily create an email, right? Instead of having the button on top. So something like that. Imagine you're providing something like that for your users. I think this is the one I love the most, the media session API, which is, so you look at those two screens. You have the first one, you have the second one. Now, this screen, this is actually a web app. This is not a native app. This is a web app. But then you have a web app that when the user is using the app, or when the user adds the app to the home screen and the user starts using the app, when the user locks the screen, the user can still have access to your app on the home screen. So the user can still control your app. You can go back, you can go forward, you can pause. And this is made available with the media session API. So with the media session API, you have something like this. So when the user clicks maybe the play or the pause button, you can go ahead and activate the set media session. But then what happens in the set media session function itself? This is what happens. So you check, is this API available in the browser? If it's not available, you can maybe provide a polyfill. But if it is available, you can take advantage of it and say, okay, let's set a metadata for this. You put a title, you put your artist, you put your album, you put your album art, and then when the user is using your app and it gets to a point where maybe he has to lock the screen or whatever, it can show the album art, it can show the controls, and then the user can actually just manipulate the controls from the home screen rather than having to open the app every time. Do you get what I'm saying? So that the media session API actually just makes that very possible. Again, it's a browser API. So it's a browser API. So I mean, it's available in Chrome, it's available in Firefox, it's available in UC browser, Opera Mini. I'm not sure. So this is how you can handle the previous track, the next track. All right. So I'm nearing completion of the presentation, but then let's look at some of the transformations you might want to perform. Now, the web is crazy, and when you're building, for example, you're building a clone of Instagram or something for graphic designers, and then you have to add a lot of transformations, filters. Oh, a user needs to be able to turn this image from color to black and white. A user needs to be able to, add a certain type of filter to the image. You need to be able to crop it and all of those good things, right? Now, you already have services available that can help you do that. But then, do you want to manually do that, or do you want to take advantage of Angular components that already give you that? So a good example, I'm just going to give some few examples. This is number one. You want to do like a custom shape cropping. Somebody uploads something to your website or to your app, and you need to perform some sort of cropping. Look at that. Look at that Angular code. You have a CL image component. Now, within the CL image component, you have a transformation component. So the transformation component actually takes as a parameter any type of transformation you want to perform. So here we want to crop it to a certain width and a certain height, 173 and 200. And you specify the type of crop that you want. And it's that simple. And the CL image, the ID of the CL image is the image that you actually want to crop. So with just how many lines of code, you already achieve that. I'll give you another example. This is a, look at the original image, then look at the text texture. So you are trying to make a text look like the image you already have by the left. That's the image, right? You're trying to transform a text to be something like that. So, I mean, it depends on, you can decide to, you have the idea of whatever you want to do in your head, but then you want to achieve something like this. But look at, we are achieving something like this with just how many lines of code? 4. You have the CL image component. Within it again, you have the transformation component. Now, the transformation component, you put an overlay attribute. Text, that's the text you want. The you want it to be bold, then you want it to be that particular flower. And you put this, you just drop this component within your app. All right. This is what we do almost every time. I mean, if you have built a social network before, I mean, you've been part of a team that built a social network or build anything that has to do with users filling out forms and all of those things, you build a profile completeness meter all the time. Oh, how many percent? The user has done 50%. So if the user comes back to your home screen, you're saying, okay, you have just 60% done. You try to do some user progressive enhancement. Hey, if you make it up to 80%, we have this thing that we can give you, or you can qualify for this and all of that. Yeah. So when you're building things like that, there are a lot of things you take into consideration. But then this is a component that allows you to build it like on the fly. Like you drop in your CL image component, you put in the avatar of the person, and then you drop in these other components, which is the transformation component. Look at what's happening here. We dropped in a lot of different transformation components, but then for each transformation component we specify. The first one, we want you to trim it. Second one, we want you to colorize it with a special type of color. Second one, the other one, we want to apply another image on top, which is the layer apply. Then you have crop, you have the background, and just with this, you already have a profile completeness meter. I'll give you another example. You want to color a picture. Look at the first image here, original image. That's the phone. That's the color by default, right? You want to change the color to say purple. Look at what we are doing there. We have the CL image component, which is the smartphone itself. Then you just specify the color, and voila, you're done. This is an example of concatenating video with images. You have a video and you need to concatenate it with an image. You need to drop an image in, I don't know, for some reasons, or you want to brand the video. This is an example of how to do that. You have the ID of the video, which is the dog playing. Then the picture is we specify that in the transformation tag. Look at the one in the middle. Overlay is equal to sample. Sample is actually the name of the image that we concatenated with the video right there. Then start offset is where we want it to start from, where the concatenation should begin from. We started from 0. That means from the beginning, go ahead and concatenate the image with the video. So generating video thumbnails, very simple too. You have the ID of the video, you specify the offset where you want it to start from, and it generates a thumbnail of the particular video. So you can do that for animated GIFs. And this is this one I'm really very excited about this, because this is a face detection example, right? Because this is what is happening. There's a demo to this, so you can go to that link, cloudydex.face. You have different types of shades, different types of glasses here, maybe like 10 examples, right? Now, when you select an example shade, it automatically gets the eyes of the user the same way you do on Instagram, right? On Instagram, you put your filter and it gets your eyes, it gets your head, and then it automatically drops it in, right? So you have some face detection stuff going that is happening here. But then it's so fast because when you click, if you go to that link and you check it on your laptop, when you click on the different glasses, it just automatically changes the glass on and puts it on the user's face. So you can upload your own image and also try that example. Yeah, so this is the project for you that you've been asking. That's the library. That's the library I use for all of that. So with the Cloudinary Angular library, you can do all of those things that I just talked about. All right. So I mean, I'm sure we all know this. Don't forget, your users need the media access to be delivered very fast. So make sure you provide your CDN. Make sure you have there is low network latency. I mean, once you pass your media assets via CDNs, and these are examples of CDNs that I just put below, it already makes sure stuff like this are available for you. So offline, how many of us use Workbox or have started using Workbox? I know we had SW Precache. How many of you do the offline stuff? Yeah, good. You have SW Precache and what was the name of the second one? But then now you have Workbox. Workbox combines all of them into one. So you want to make sure your assets are cached for offline use for people that don't have that kind of internet connectivity, or probably even people here. Maybe you're in a tunnel or you're taking a train and you get to a place where there's no network. You don't want the user to be stuck. You want the user to still be able to view the images, listen to the audio. You want the user to also be able to watch the video. You can use Workbox to cache your assets. Background sync is a very useful browser API. Like I said here, it lets you defer actions until the user has stable connectivity. So if the user was performing an action just before the network went off, or just before he closed the tab, say he was trying to send an email. Now, when you take advantage of the background sync API, what it does is that email that is meant to be sent, because there is no network, it is actually not sent, but then it is stored somewhere. So when the user comes back online, it goes ahead to send the message. So nothing is lost in transition. So the user sends the mail. The user thinks the mail has been sent, but no, the network went off at that point, so it dropped off, right? But then it is saved somewhere. So when the user comes back online, it goes ahead and check, okay, is there any other activity going around here? And it goes ahead and send. That's the background sync API. This is how it works. So you can just check it out yourself. Then you have the background fetch. I don't know, background fetch looks demonic. I won't lie. It's still very experimental, because when you look at the capabilities of the background fetch, this is what Android apps provide already. I don't know if you have built Android apps before here, or you build Android apps here, you can defer things to the background, and that can be working. And then when it's done, it goes ahead to do whatever you want it to do. But then imagine you doing something exactly that same thing for the web. You are running some background tasks, which is crazy because that does not happen. You are doing that using the background fetch. Now, the background fetch is still in implementation, but then you can test it out in those links that are provided. Jake Archibald, that works at Google, was the one that submitted the proposal for the background fetch. And then it's still currently in development right now. And I'm sure it's going to be available very soon, so you can check it out. Yeah, so this is the demo. I provided this link. So this is a link. This is an app that was developed by Paul Lewis. So you can go ahead and check that link. Now, when you go to this link, you can on this link you see a progressive web app. Now, with the progressive web app, it's a media web app. You can play videos. You can save the videos for offline viewing. Um, you can do a lot of the crazy stuff that I've just mentioned here. So you can check it out, and also the source code is available online. So when you check out the URL, somewhere along, I think the bottom, you find the reference to the source code, so you can check how it was actually built. And yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you very much.
First of all, very nice job. That was super informative. Thank you very much for doing that. What was the name of the woman who did the visualizations of the different technology breakdowns that you were talking about on Instagram? I think it was. What was it?
Kosamari.
Or on Twitter?
Yeah, Kosamari.
Kosamari?
Yeah, so I think that's a Twitter handle, Kosamari, actually.
Kosamari. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. She was the MC for Chrome Dev Summit. So if you attended Chrome Dev Summit, she MC'd with Notwadov.
She also works in this building, so she might be around. Thanks a lot, Prosper.
Thank you, guys.